TV cable show. I am Bert Lockett, and I'm sitting in for Flo. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Dr. Yosef Ben-Yakinen, and he is affectionately known as Dr. Ben. Welcome, Dr. Ben.
Hi, thank you.
How are you today?
Well, feeling rather sniffy.
Yes. He is a Egyptologist who has tours over in Egypt, and he takes the people to the different temples, and they see the Sphinx and different things. As a matter of fact, it's our history that you talk about. I want to first open and ask you about the schooling. What are your degrees that you have?
Well, I have my bachelor's of civil engineering from the University of Puerto Rico. I then followed by a master's degree in architectural engineering from the University of Havana in Cuba. Also in Cuba, I received a master's degree in anthropology. I then went to Spain, University of Barcelona, and I received a doctorate degree in Moorish history. I left that and came to the United States and got a law degree at La Salle University in Chicago. So that is basically my training, but in the meantime, and in between time, I had other kinds of studies, studying in various other disciplines to secure needed information in other areas.
Well, how did you get started on your tours for Egypt?
Well, in 1939, around the ending of my college first degree, my bachelor's, I had many arguments, both from my high school days and in my college days, amounting to whether or not African people have a history or not. Like most African personnel in the Western Hemisphere. And I went through that and had to employ my father to assist me in straightening out this matter. My father brought to me certain books that he was holding, being a barrister, and from that time I found it necessary, as required by my father, to go back to Ethiopia as well as other nations along the Nile, and Egypt in particular, to see the historical documentation of the African beginning of civilization, and including European civilization. That Africans not only created the first civilization, but gave the rudimentals to all other civilizations that followed.
How many days is your tour, and where do you go?
Well, the tour is normally 14 days. Sometimes it can vary because of airline schedule. The tour begins in New York, leaving John F. Kennedy Airport, on any given day. Now, it takes, since Egypt is roughly 7 hours or 6, depending if it's summer, daylight saving time or not, till you arrive in Egypt. That means if you leave here Saturday, you're in Egypt Sunday. You sleep in a hotel near the airport that night, and then the next morning, we take another aircraft and we fly down to the most southern end of Egypt at the city called Aswan.
Okay.
From there, we start our tour.
Okay, take us on one of your typical tours down the Nile.
All right. If we reach in the morning, it depends on when we get our flight. We will go from the airport, if say we arrive in the morning, after we check off the plane, our baggage is placed on the bus, etc. We will then start, and since it's early, we would go to visit the New High Dam. After we leave the New High Dam, we'll go to visit what is called the unfinished obelisk of Queen Hatshepsut at the marble quarry there in Aswan. Since marble, all of the, marble of Egypt comes from the south, particularly in the province of Aswan. When we finish it in the quarry, we will then go to visit the island of Philae. In fact, Philae Island is called correctly by the Nubians Agilica Island. There we will see the temple of goddess Isis and begin the story of Isis, Horus, and Osiris. That's of the virgin birth story. It is also a story that will end up in the first known resurrection of a man that became God's story, more than 4,000 years before the Jesus emulation of the same story. Now,
is that in Egypt? I'm sorry.
Egypt.
But is that in Egypt or?
That part of Egypt which was originally called Nubia.
Oh, okay.
In Egypt at a place called Asyut, all the way down into Sudan at a place called Dongola was what was ancient Nubia. All right. Going through that temple, you would find that the Romans had came there and occupied it. The French came there, occupied it. They put the graffiti all over the place. You find that the early Christians, you know, Christianity started in Egypt by Pontius and Boetius, not in Greece or Rome. You find that early Christians once occupied that temple and dug their own graffiti. They put crosses and whatnot in that temple. You will find at that temple what is called the Mamizi, the birthplace of the Pharaoh, allegedly, like any alleged person, having come from God. Some of the queens and some of the kings were born, according to them, by the intercession of God having no father, like Hatshepsut and so forth. So the fact of people being born without the sexual intercourse of a father and a mother is nothing new when the Christians talk about it for thousands of years. And that you will see. You will see one of the oldest such story, the story that begins with the flight of Osiris from his evil brother. You could call it a devil, the bad god Typhon. There are many other things that we will look there. We look at there and see the god Best, the first god of the Nile, playing all kinds of instruments, playing the harp, playing the lute, playing the flute, playing such instruments, and by the way, playing the bagpipe. And there was no Ireland yet, and there's no bagpipe in India yet. The bagpipe is an African instrument along the Nile, the lute and the flute and the harp. You will see that there when there was no Greece and no Rome. Okay, so right there we could stop and have had a very good trip. Now, but we don't stop there. We go again to another temple, the temple of Koloboyo, which has been later called by the Germans Kalabsha. We go to Kalabsha temple and we see many of the languages of the Nubians that were left. We see that there was even an older temple there, that we see elephants and other animals of Africa, which we see in practically no other temple. And we look at that temple in terms of its construction and so forth. Now, we then leave there and go to a hotel where we will register, get set, and wow. Now you are the first day down, real traveling day, and
we're working before we even go to our bedroom. Oh, yeah, in other words,
you are on an educational trip. Tourism is a sideline. You go to tourism in the afternoon after you're finished your educational tour in the morning. You also have, and each place that you're going to go and set up residence, you're going to have at least one day free where you can frolic and do whatever you want. But in the morning time, till about 2 o'clock, every day you're going on this educational tour. Then the next thing, we go around there, and in Nubia, we have a village that we have adopted, and we stop at this village, and our tour, when we leave in it, we stay 4 days in each place, but we're going to stay 5 days in Aswan now, because that's the Nubian area. And then we leave there on our way to a place in Luxor, which is going to be our next temporary home. So we make a stop to a temple on our route. We're going to travel from the south. The south is Upper Egypt, traveling with the floor, and we're going to Lower Egypt. In other words, from south to north. I know it's confusing. When you say I'm going south, you mean you're going lower, because you see your river, all of them, your major river, flow from the north to the south. The Nile, the only major river of the world, flows the opposite way, from the south to the north, down north. So okay, so we're flowing, traveling with the flow of the Nile. We stop at the Nubian village of Dabut, where we bring presents for that village and so forth, meet our brothers and sisters who we love. We finance the school. We do all kinds of things. It's a model village. The Egyptian government uses as a model for other people to look at and come and see this particular village. Then we leave the village, and we will stop at the next, furthermore, we'll stop at the Komombo, just before we get in the temple of the double god, the god Horus, otherwise called Horus, and the god Subek.
Well, who's Horus?
Horus is the virgin-born son of the immaculately conceived Isis, 4,000 years before Mary. Before the story of the Immaculate Conception of Mary, this is a story of the Immaculate Conception of Isis, who gave birth to a virgin-born child, Horus, which was 4,000 years before Jesus had the same alleged birth process.
Well, her husband's name was Osiris?
Osiris, just like Mary's husband's name in the heaven was Jehovah. Then Osiris, Isis' husband's name was Amun-Ra. Amun-Ra was the father of Osiris, just as Jehovah is the father of Jesus.
You done threw me all the way off, because I remember once we were talking before and you told me that Osiris was the brother and the husband of Isis.
Yes, Isis is his sister, but the mother and father is Mut and Amun. You're talking about God. God could do anything, and God could be 100 things. Jesus is three persons, God the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. But that wasn't nothing new. Amun was God the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Osiris is God the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. The Christian adopted these things. Christian didn't bring anything new. All these things were existing, like Jesus being baptized by John the Baptist. There's nothing new. Every Pharaoh had to be baptized, purified before he could become a Pharaoh. The whole story of Jesus and all those are copies of what the Africans had done on the Nile already. And that's what we're looking at the temples to see these truths that have not been told to us. We had to go ourselves and to point them out. You know, when I went there and saw these things, I was blasted. I was flabbergasted. I said, how could this be? That isn't what I've been taught. I was taught that the Greeks start everything, and if the Greeks didn't start it, the Hebrews start everything. How you mean these things couldn't exist? But here they are. And then they tell me that the first Hebrew was a man called Abraham, but he isn't born till about 1675. Here I see and think the same story, thousands of years before Adam and Eve's story. I thought that it was a person around that time with Adam and Eve, take record and just tell us about. I didn't know that it was only 700 BC that this story came up from a place called the Sanhedrin by Jewish writers. I didn't know that they had gone and copied other people's things. Nobody told me that. I thought this was an original story and nobody else knew it, and they were the first people to find out. Their information is tertiary, not even first-hand information, not even second-hand information, but tertiary information.
Well, what is it? Written in words, or is it pictures, or how is it? How do you know the story? You know, that's the story.
You learn what is called medunecha, which the Greeks call hieroglyphs. And there are many forms of it. The hieratic and the demotic are the most common. And when you learn that, then you could read the stories. And the papyrus paper, the first paper ever made by man, or the stone, and cut in the stones, and you see the actual story in picture form, and you see it in writing. Okay, when we leave there...
But it's not going to be in English, though.
No. I mean, there wasn't English in the world then.
So what was the language then?
The Medunecha.
Oh, okay.
What it's called, one of the hieroglyphic writing. And as I said, you got demotic, you got hieratic, and other forms of hieroglyphic writing. We have guides who will be with us. I give lectures on every tour. Every afternoon when you come back from the field trip, there is an hour lecture which I give you a historic lecture of what you're seeing and prepare you for the next day. Then you have a question and answer period.
Oh, that's
also
wonderful.
every day.
That's great.
The guide plus me. There's no other tour doing it. The other tour just the guide. This. No, we go beyond that. We go to the place and I give you a historical lecture. You have question and answer period. They got people in my trip who professors who dealing with Egypt also. They equally have the chance to ask questions, to make statements. So it's a give and take. And then you see the things and we discuss it. And so forth. Now, for instance, at the temple I'm telling you about, at Komombo, you see the very first time they met the calendar, how the ancient figure out the calendar. You see the medical and surgical instruments from the physician called Imhotep. And Imhotep was a physician more than 2,500 years before the birth of Hippocrates. And we were told that Hippocrates is the father of medicine. In other words, what you're seeing is the lies that we were told. You would find them brazenly in your face, that the Greeks lied, and the professors today who carry that are still lying. You will see medical writings that predated. You see the temple of Imhotep. You see a statue of Imhotep right there. And right there in this temple, you see a picture of the baptism of the Pharaoh, which is purification of the rites of the Pharaoh before he takes his throne. Yet they're telling us about John the Baptist. John the Baptist is yesterday compared to what we're talking about. You see all of these things here. You find it, see the first calendar. Each month has 30 days, 12 months of 30 days, 1 month of 5 days, making it 13-month calendar. Ethiopia still use that calendar. The farmers of Egypt still use that calendar. Now,
that's probably where leap year.
That was to compensate. The leap year was made for that by throwing in the extra day into February, by making some months 31, some 30, some 28 or 29, depending. All those kinds of jingle jangle. But the ancient Africans were wise about it. They had every month with 30 days and 1 month with 5 days, corrected each 50th year. Now, we saw those things. Now we go from there to the next temple, which is the temple of what we call Horus the Elder. Like Jesus the Elder was James. James the Lesser was Jesus' older brother. Isn't it funny? A copy of this. You go to that temple and you see the drama of God, the bad God, the evil God, Typhon killing his brother Osiris. That is where you get the evil eye and the American dollar from. This system. It is supposed to be the left eye of Horus, which was dug out in a war, a fight against his uncle for having killed his father. And mind you, this story is older than the Cain and Abel story by 3,000 years. And they tell us that Cain was the first man to kill another man. It's poppycock. The story, Cain and Abel's story, is a poor copy of the Osiris being killed by his brother said Typhon. Just like the thing we know, you got the Washington Memorial. The Washington Memorial is a copy from this story. The obelisk, you would go to Egypt and say obelisk. You see an obelisk in Central Park called the Cleopatra's Needle. That is not. It's the obelisk of Thutmose IV. It's just called that. But nobody have an idea. They said George Washington. That obelisk is symbolic of the penis of Osiris, which had been cut off with 14 pieces of his body, but his brother said, fine, throw it in the river. The Nile catfish symbolically had eaten one, and his wife demanded that a symbol of his penis be built. And thus, so George Washington Memorial is nothing else but a symbol of Osiris' penis.
Now, wait a minute. You said that the 14 pieces of his body had been missing, which included his penis.
His penis.
Okay, so when they brought the 14 pieces back, what happened?
They didn't find the 14, they found 13. One piece was missing.
Okay.
His penis was missing and had been eaten by the Nile catfish.
What did they do with the 13 pieces?
They went, Osiris appealed to God Ra, along with the various other gods of resurrection, and Ra grew back the penis onto Osiris, his son.
But where's the 13
his
pieces?
only born son.
Wait a minute. You was telling me about 13 pieces. What did they do with 13 pieces?
Isis went around the world and gathered the 13 pieces and put them back together. We're talking about God, a concept of God. And Jesus is not the only concept of God.
Did he live after the 13 pieces?
Yeah, he came back to life.
But how could he live now? He don't have his penis. So what's he going to do?
He grew it back. God can grow back a penis if God wants. You got to understand the theory of God is a theory that varies everywhere. Jesus is not the only theory of God. Jehovah is not the only theory of God. You got Shinto, you got Buddha, you got all kinds of different gods. Each God is as powerful as the other God. It depends on who's telling the story and who believe in it.
Yeah, well, they allow you to take cameras in these temples.
You can take cameras in any of the temples. You can take camera in the museum, but you cannot use flash. You cannot take camera in the tombs. However, you can take flash anywhere else.
Well, what about video cameras?
A video camera will cost you at the museum 25 Egyptian pounds. A still camera will cost you about 5 Egyptian pounds. An Egyptian pound is about it's 2.5. The Egyptian pound is about 30 cents American money.
13 cents?
30.
30
it's 2.5 to 1. Or a little better. It fluctuates daily by the world market quotation and things like that. We go on to the Valley of the Kings, and then the next stop we go to a hotel in Luxor. Another class 5. That's the highest rating of 4, deluxe hotel. Then we go to the West Bank, the Valley of the Kings. That is the big thing. That's where a lot of the things in Egypt. We go to the tomb of Makari Hatshepsut. The first woman to rule any country in the world was this African sister who ruled as a man and a woman simultaneously. Don't get me wrong. You see, she had 2 babies. She knew what she was doing. Symbolically, she put on men's clothes and she said, if I'm going to rule a country, I'll rule like a king. So she put on men's clothes. She was the first woman. The Catholic wouldn't like her because she introduced what is known as the first birth control method done by her scientists who made a suppository to insert into a vagina. That suppository, when it melted from the heat of her body, it trapped the sperms and stopped the sperm from going into the area so that she can be impregnated. It's called the Ebers papyrus. You're talking about the shrub of acacia mixed in honey, which breaks down into lactic acid. You can buy a copy of this in what is called the Ebers papyrus.
So they had birth control way back
1555 is when she ruled. That would be the 18th dynasty. There wasn't Jesus yet born, much as a pope. And women been practicing in ancient Africa along the Nile Planned Parenthood. I don't accept it, but birth control is when somebody forced me, my woman, to have a baby or not have it. That's birth control. Planned Parenthood is when my woman decides that her body can't take no more. She don't want it in her body, and she decided to plan her family. And I have nothing against Planned Parenthood. I'm against birth control, but I'm not against Planned Parenthood. I think a woman, furthermore, since I'm not going to get pregnant, I'm not worrying about that at all, and I ain't going to make no law for what the woman should do until I get pregnant. When I start to get pregnant, then, and the woman got to make me pregnant, by the way. That's the only how I going to get
and
pregnant.
You heard it here.
No, I mean, I like to be fair and honest and stop diddle-daddling with all kind of hypothetical nonsense. I got no right over even my wife's body. It's hers. That's her body. I ain't going to feel no pain. I don't go get no baby for her. What do I? You ever seen a man getting a baby? Then the man should keep his business out of stick his nose out of somebody else's business. That's his, let her decide, because she's the one going to have to have those pains. Now we go to the Valley of the Kings, and we see the Tutankhamun tomb. We go all, and see all these beautiful things. We see in the tomb of Ramesses VI, the negative confession where Moses got those 10 commandments. It has nothing to do with any Mount Sinai or anything like that.
I understand that people who go into Islam, They have a problem with your theory.
Yes, Mom, I know. Because I can't believe that no human being took a carpet and went to the carpet and flew from Arabia to Jerusalem. Because I've been in the plane in the air with an airplane, and if you could stay on top of clouds with anything, let me know. I'm a doubting Thomas from Missouri. Carry me and show me.
What you mean? You mean that the plane stays up on the cloud? This is their theory? Or
if they
what?
cut off the motor, let's see that plane stay up there.
Oh, my goodness.
They could cut it off when I'm not there. I'll take a ladder and climb down before they cut it off.
Oh, you all
could stay up there. Even if they don't shoot, I'm going to try something else. I'll probably take my drawers and just hang it out and let the air get caught in there, try to come down like a parachute. I'll take that chance before I stay up there waiting for to go on a carpet.
I hear that. I mean, but is that their theory? Is that what you
mean, there's some theories. You see, some of us take religion like fools. Mm-hmm. We don't take religion that is part of it. Part of it is allegorical. Part of it is mythological. Part of it is scientific. Part of it is historical. We go into something, like blind people. You understand? Start blind talking what we're seeing.
Yeah.
You know, you give us anything and tell us, like when Carter tell black people, see, when Carter run, he tell the Jewish people, I'm going to help you keep Israel. I know another person who just said that the other day, but Carter says that. Next, he go to the Italians, there was an earthquake or something, say, I'm going to help you with the earthquake. Mm-hmm. And he went to the, he going to help. When he went to black people, they say, don't tell us you're a man of God. As long as you stay with Jesus, we're with you.
We have all this problem with the crack, and we have all this problem with the drugs and all these things that's going on. What would be your suggestion to the young people to clear their minds, you know?
Well, number one, I will ask them to look around them and ask, who is the crack hurting? Is it hurting the person who's selling it, or is it hurting the person who's using it? And that would be the only natural thing. If you want to be hurt, then okay. But go to an island, don't use crack 1 minute and something else the other, because you're saying that crack is a failure if you do. Just deal with crack alone. Don't eat, don't do anything else, and see what's going to happen. And see how much you can compete with the rest of the world who are not high. And ask me, if you're high, you can do anything normal. You can't drive normal, you can't read normally, you can't walk normally when you're dealing with crack. And then, as I said before, who are you hurting? You're not hurting me, unless you come and try to steal from me or something. But even then, you can't get away. You can't get away because if I don't get you, the law gonna get you.
Yeah.
So who are you hurting? I mean, what are you mad with? You can't be mad with yourself when you find out that you give world civilization. You can't be mad with yourself when you give the word to build the pyramids, one of the most magnificent buildings. You can't be mad with yourself when you give to the world the theory of God. Now, why, if you give to the world the theory of God, of the theory of justice, you give to the world mathematics, the first calendar, and so on and so on and so on. Now, why are you angry? What are you angry with? Yes, we lost wars and we be placed in slavery by the Europeans. But it doesn't mean you're going to stay in slavery. Look at the condition. Is it changing? It's not changing because you went to pray. It's changing because people before you, since you, and after you, changing things back for their justification. And if you're mad because you look black, all right, then look at the first Jesus. And I know a lot of you want to go up to heaven and things like that. But ask what Jesus' color was before Michelangelo put a paintbrush on it. Mm-hmm. You know, so if you were shown as God, mm-hmm, before they had a European farm by Michelangelo, what more can you be? Then why are you angry?
Yeah, that's very good, and I hope that the young people out there heard. We are right now on the Flo Kennedy cable TV show. Thank you. You've been a real help to me and making me understand some things. I hope that we'll see each other soon again.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.